Christy. How are you doing?
Hey, Cynthia, I'm good. It's just a fall Sunday morning and it feels so hot. I'm still trying to get into like the fall mood spirit.
Yeah, we started decorating with our fall decorations. We have like some garlands up that my husband put up, and then we have some pumpkins that we grew.
Yes,
But other than that, yeah, the weather is what, almost 80 degrees, 70 degrees or something.
I know it's crazy. We also decorated at the office.
Yay.
Mostly Halloween decorations, not really fall, which I'm all about that. I like the spooky vibes.
So, team Halloween or fall?
I am team Halloween, I would say.
Okay.
Definitely. And there's people who love putting Christmas decorations up and like before
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, and I feel like there's a split. There's people that are really mad about that. And they feel like Christmas decorations shouldn't go up till after
Right,
Thanksgiving.
right.
I just think like if that's going to be a thing, then people who are really into Halloween should be able to put it up in September.
That's true. I mean, you have that option, but I don't know. I most recently became a fan of Halloween after getting married, and I see always, but I have like nice Christmas memories and stuff. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn, but I'm flexible. Let's do it all. Why not?
Right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, what Oktoberfest is happening right now? The end of September, early
That's right.
October.
It's all the stuff that's kind of leads into the fall
Yeah.
vibes.
Have you ever been to an Oktoberfest?
I have not actually.
Okay.
I've always wanted to. Um I do like beer. I drink beer on
Yeah.
occasion, but I definitely don't drink it as much as I used
Right.
to. I think there was a period of time where that's just what I wanted to be doing, just drinking beer and going to
I mean, our
breweries
20s,
and
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And now it's not the same anymore. So I don't know if I can handle a festival all around
Right.
beer.
Right. College days, beer, what is it? Keg
Yes.
stands. I mean,
Yeah.
seeing all
Oh
that,
my
of course.
god. And
Seeing it.
of course, and of course that was not always the best beer,
Of
right? That we were
course. Yeah,
drinking.
yeah. But yeah, Oktoberfest is definitely beer focused.
Right.
Something that I was,
And you're right. It's not all about beer,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I had to kind of like look it up, but then we happened to buy a beer that was Oktoberfest beer, and so the back of it actually read like it said what it was, what Oktoberfest is, or like a little brief
Mm-hmm.
history. So, do you know?
What it's about.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I know it's a German festival, right?
yeah, yeah.
What I never really knew is like it kind of always seems to be something that doesn't just happen on one day. It seems to be something that kind of happens over a period of time. I just don't know how long that is.
Yeah, I believe it's about like 2 weeks or so,
Mm-hmm.
in September and October. Um, there's more of a like longer explanation of this, but basically it was beer that was served at this wedding reception
Mm-hmm.
of a prince and princess
Mm-hmm.
in the 1800s in Bavaria, I believe, and
Okay.
like the whole town was invited. And so all these people were drinking beer there. I mean, that's a very doing the least explanation
Right.
of what Oktoberfest is. And so now it is celebrated in, worldwide, but also like in Munich is huge, like a center spot of where Oktoberfest is held. And so you have special Oktoberfest beer, that's specifically made for that event. And I guess it's a German styled lagers types. And so you could keep drinking.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, the I do see that kind of at these festivals it's really celebrating like the German culture, right? And
Mm.
it's not just about the beer, there's also the food and the music
Mm-hmm.
and um the cups that people are drinking their beer out of. These steins, they're huge.
Yes.
Um so
So I found this page that it was a really good resource, and they talk all
okay.
about the different types of glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And so beer steins, they look like mugs, right? They have so many
Right.
different looks. They can come in glass, they can come in like ceramic or something, stoneware, porcelain, even silver.
Some have dimples. Right, some of them have dimples or they don't have
Dimples, where?
dimples. So on the outer portion of the glass, if you've seen,
Uh-huh.
sometimes they'll have like dimples in the sense there's like little sections that look like dimples around the glass. Sometimes it's like just on the top, maybe half or top like 25% of the glass, or sometimes it's throughout the entire glass all around.
Oh, okay. Um, I haven't noticed that, but yeah, like there's like different varieties, right? And they're huge. Like you could fit maybe like a liter, like a whole.
Yeah, so I actually looked that up.
Uh-huh.
Some there are different sizes. There are smaller steins. I think the smaller steins are about 12 ounces, which is even less than a pint, right? But the larger steins go up to 37 ounces. So it's a lot
Sign
of,
me up for one,
yeah,
and I'm good.
right?
So, a little fun fact history that they use the beer steins with a lid on it. Do you know why?
I thought it was because, I imagine these people just drinking their beer very, like holding their beer mugs and just waving it around, being drunk.
Sure.
And it was to prevent the beer from spilling over.
I mean, that's why I would use it if I'm partying, right?
Right?
So apparently, from kegerator.com,
Mm-hmm.
they mentioned that the lids were more sanitary, and they would think that it was to prevent the bubonic plague. So it was kind of like for
Oh,
sanitary reasons.
that's hilarious. It's kind of
It's
like
interesting. Yeah.
we can relate, we kind of know what it's like
Oh
to
my
want to be
gosh.
sanitary and not want people to like
That's
breathe
true.
all over our beer.
Right. Now with this pandemic that has happened and is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we have decided to share a little bit about certain um, topics of beers or specific beers. So,
Yeah. Definitely. I think this is a beer that I've grown to like, and I definitely wouldn't even call myself a huge fan, but the IPA is a type of beer that it's really an umbrella of beer, right? Because there are so many different types of IPAs, which I don't know nearly as much about as I'm sure an IPA connoisseur would know. Um, but I do know that when I first started kind of getting into more beer drinking and not just the Bud Lights or the Coronas or Tecates that were at the barbecues, um, I kind of I just didn't like IPA the taste initially. I
hmm.
thought it tasted very bitter. It tasted very like an orange peel to me. I didn't find the appeal. It felt heavier to kind of go through, kind of
Hmm.
like sip through. But I enjoy them now. I found that there are some that are not as like heavy, for the lack of a better word. These days I'm a really big fan of hazy IPAs,
Oh, okay.
and they're usually a lot more like blonde in color,
Hmm.
and they can feel very crisp in taste, refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they do have you get the hops that you would get in like a IPA, but it doesn't feel as overwhelming to the point where I feel the bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so IPAs. How do you feel about them?
Well, honestly, I feel like I'm still stuck in the. I don't really care for them. They're too
Mm-hmm.
strong. They're very piney. I understand it has to do with like just the hops and the bitterness of it all, and um, I feel like I really focus on the aftertaste, which some
Mm-hmm.
IPAs I've noticed like don't have that.
Yeah.
But I am not much of a fan of them. They tend to also be like higher alcohol volume, and so I could probably like just drink half of one, and but I wouldn't. I would just probably taste one and that's it.
I'll be honest with you, it does take me a while to get through an IPA.
Yeah.
Uh it's just it's uh it's hard. Like it's just not something that you can chug, like it's not something that's necessarily quenching my thirst. And especially while I'm eating, right? Like some people can have their meal and, kind of wash it down with a nice beer.
Yeah.
The IPA for me is a meal in itself.
Yes.
So it just feels too heavy for me to drink that while eating.
Yeah.
So I'll usually like it. For me, it's more of a beer that I like to drink before I
Hmm.
have a meal, because it does, that alcohol content really does kind of
Creep up on you.
creep up on you, and then you'll get the munchies, and
Right.
it's all good.
Yeah.
But an IPA, of course, stands for an Indian Pale Ale,
Mm.
or India Pale Ale, as some people say.
Mm.
Um, and do you know why that is? Is why it's called that?
I'm sure it has to do with like trade, maybe.
It does. Yes, it does.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I guess, back in the day when the British were colonizing the
Um.
whole world, or
Mm.
at least setting out to do so,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to kind of load up their ships with beer that would be able to last them from the entire voyage from England all the way to India. So
Mm.
they they kind of, and I'm not going to get into how it's made because I don't know, and I'm not going to be able to get
This
into
is
all the
called doing the
specifics.
least, Christy.
Right?
Let's remember this.
Exactly. Like all you need to know and all I need to know is that it was made in a way such that it would be still good to drink by the time they reached India.
Mm.
So that's kind of where it gets its name, which I guess isn't really relevant anymore, right? But here we are still calling it IPAs,
Mm.
and I think that's perfectly fine. Yeah, but definitely you'll find some IPAs with higher alcohol content. I think on average, it's like your average beer. You'll have like a 5%
Mm-hmm.
like percent, but then you get some of the stronger IPAs, which could be like 7 or more.
Oh my gosh, I think I remember there's one called The End of the World, but in French.
Uh-huh. Oh, Fin du Monde.
Uh-huh. I think that
That's
one's
a good
like
one.
10 to 13% or something.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've
I
had
didn't know
four.
this because I actually I know I used to love, I just loved the label on that one, and I
Yeah.
remember the first time I tried it I thought it was so good.
Yeah.
um and I don't remember what the alcohol percentage was. I want to say it's Canadian, but I could be making that up.
Oh. I mean, it could be, right? I don't know. But fun fact,
Yeah.
beer is obviously, a super old drink,
Hmm.
back uh, the years of BC.
Oh yeah, like I don't know exactly who started it. In my mind, I always I give credit to the Incas. Um
Yeah.
but the Romans also made beer.
No, yeah, it was something about like it being in Iran, like what is
Oh,
now Iran. It's the third most popular drink overall after water and tea.
more than wine?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, this is according to Wikipedia, but you know. And
that's
yeah,
amazing. But yeah, I mean, people have been getting drunk since forever,
since
right?
forever. Yeah. So, I wanted to talk about
Okay.
lagers.
Oh, I love me a lager. I really do.
I do too. I do too. It's
I mean, call me basic, but hey.
I mean, same. My favorite beer is a lager.
Hmm.
The champagne of beers. Wait, that's not.
I think that's like Miller or something.
Wait, not that one. The other one.
What is it?
The Stella beers. Those are really good.
Oh, the Stella
Stella
Artois.
Artois. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, can I tell you a funny story about
Please tell
Stella's?
me.
And it's actually not that funny at all. But I, for some reason, have it like engraved in my head that
Uh-huh.
like when I travel and I go to the airport and I have a beer at the airport,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be a Stella. And I
Oh,
don't know why, but traditionally, it's like my own little personal tradition. I will always order a Stella when I'm at the airport.
I mean, it's so refreshing. I could talk about Stellas for days. They have nice glassware that they come out
Exactly.
with the gold rim. I mean, come on.
So fancy.
So fancy. So lagers, they originated in the 19th century, around in Bohemia, which is, I believe, near Germany, Czech Republic now. They are special because they are made with a bottom fermenting yeast in low temperatures, and they're always
Okay.
carbonated. So back to the making of how is beer made. I don't know the specifics. Don't ask me, but it says you brew it, you mix all the things that you need to mix together, you ferment it, and from the starches comes the alcohol and carbonation. So these things produce the flavors. So they use rice, wheat, maize, oats, and people add other things like fruit, coffee to like help with flavors.
Ooh. I didn't
And
know coffee went into lager.
some, oh no, not in, sorry,
Oh, just
not
in
lagers,
beer.
just in beer in general.
Okay, gotcha.
But for lagers, they use cool fermentation. Lager actually means storeroom or warehouse in German. So I believe that's just having to do with how it's made. And so there's a bunch of variations of lagers: Pilsner, Helles, Marzen, Bach. There's like too many to list. But I guess the point being is that they are a little lighter in color. They're a little bit less in alcohol content. Like I mentioned, they're very easy to drink. You could eat them with like, or drink it with like meals, chicken, seafood, cheese plates, hot dogs, which is typical with
Mm,
like Oktoberfest foods,
yeah.
salmon and lemony things like, like Coronas. You put them with a squeeze of lemon.
And then also like just like a good old ball game, right? You have hot dogs
Yeah,
and beer.
yeah, exactly. That's basically, let's see, lagers.
Honestly, like these lagers are just so they're just so refreshing. And then once you get into like the Mexican lagers,
Oh yeah.
it's like a whole different I don't know, you can just there's so many. With Mexican lagers, usually like we'll squeeze a lime over it and some people will add salt and many other things like micheladas and chavelas and stuff. But that's a whole discussion for a
That's
different time. But
that's right.
but even if just adding the lime, as simple as just adding the lime to a Mexican lager, it just enhances the flavor so much. And you can do that with other beers. You can do that with other lagers, which I have done, and it doesn't taste bad. Like add a lime to Bud Light, right? It'll be fine, but it's not the same.
No, and I completely agree that there's only certain beers that do allow for that. And all
But kind
right.
of going into the whole sourness of a lime in your lager, these sours or sour beers um, that exist, which a lot of people who
Ooh.
like don't really drink beer that much and haven't really tried a lot of beers might not even know about these sours, because I feel like sours is a good way to get into beer if you're like someone that thinks you don't like beer.
That's true.
And I say this because I didn't even realize I was drinking a sour beer for the longest time when when I would buy these lambics from Trader Joe's, right? Like, I mean, you can get them anywhere, but there's like different flavors. There's peach.
Mm.
The one I would love is the raspberry lambic. And a lambic is essentially a sour beer.
Oh.
And I don't really know how best to describe a sour to someone who's never tried one, other than like, to me it's kind of like beer pretending to be wine, or like a sweet wine at least, cuz there's a tartness to it. It is sour. Some are
Mm-hmm.
more sour than others. Um it's very acidic. Now not all wine is acidic, right? But it's very acidic. And with these lambics, they are usually like, they have a little bit more of a sweetness to it. And as a matter of fact, it's even the color red. The raspberry flavored is red, or more burgundy raspberry color. Um, and it kind of just tastes like a raspberry soda, right? Like it just tastes like the carbonation of the
Yeah.
soda with the very tartness to it. So if you like sour things, which I do, I prefer tart things. Sours are a lot of fun. The only thing is they don't usually have high alcohol percentage. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, some can be really low, like 3, 4%, and they're very rarely over 5%. Although there are the occasional sour beer that can be pretty high. Like I've seen some be up to like 8 or 9%.
Yeah, they almost remind me of like kombucha,
Yes.
like that kind of tarty sour. I mean, they're delicious. I love sours as well.
Yeah. So usually sours are kind of made like through the fermentation process of it is kind of done a little bit differently than your traditional beer. Um because they're made from like the wild yeast strains that kind of come from these different batches, right? Like you have your starter and then you keep using, you kind of use that. You have a starter that you use for one batch to another, right? Um with the sours, it's kind of like intentionally made with like wild strains. I think that's kind of like going into the whole kombucha thing, right? Like it's
Mm.
it's kind of like fermented a little bit differently. Um and there are different types of sours. So I already talked a little bit about the lambic, but another popular one is the German Goza. Gozas are really different in the sense that they're not brewed the same way as the others with the kind of like the wild yeast strains, but they're made with salt and coriander.
Mm.
So it's a different process, but they taste amazing.
They
Super
do.
sour, super tart.
Yes.
To me, it's like a summer drink. It's a summer beer.
Mm-hmm.
And you could drink a lot, and like you could have a few and not get too much of a buzz from them because of the
Yeah.
low alcohol. But I also don't think that it makes you feel like super full or bloated like some other heavier beers. So, you know, give and take.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're very flavorful and they don't fill you up so you keep wanting more.
Right.
Give me 3 or 5. I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'll take him.
exactly. Yeah. I think, I think 6 is probably my happy number for beer. Because 5 is fine. It's average. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's familiar territory.
Right, right.
7 is kind of like, well, how drunk are we gonna get today, right? It's like, like I gotta think about that one in advance. 6 is
Right.
like, it's just right, I think. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's funny. Yeah, and so that's the sours. And I actually
Nice.
tried a sour ale yesterday, which is not necessarily a sour, right? I don't know. We'll
It's a
we'll,
combination, I guess, of both.
we'll figure it out. But it was a called Peach Supernova Almanac
Ooh.
Beer Company in Alameda, California, which is in the Bay
Oh,
Area, 5.3%. It was really good. And it says here that
nice.
it's aged in oak barrels with peaches and vanilla beans. Like, doesn't that already kind of sound like a peach pie or a peach cobbler or something?
Yeah, I mean exactly. They add these delicious ingredients that really contribute to their beautiful aromas. That's why
Yeah.
they have those glasses, right? Those wide
Yes.
ones, so that we can have the whole
Yes.
experience.
Yes, exactly. Trying to remember the name of it. There are so
I
many
don't,
different glasses
they
for.
look like tulips.
Yes.
Chalices. No, let's see. I have it here. Snifters is what they're called.
Snifters, yes.
So you can sniff it or
Yeah, actually going back to the IPA, the glassware for that the shape of the glass for an IPA beer is kind of like, I don't know how to explain it without being inappropriate, but it's kind of like a little bit of a cone shape at the
oh.
top, and it's very thin. It's tall and sleek, and it has kind of a narrow. It comes in narrower at the top, at the rim, and that actually allows the carbonation to kind of come up more easily. And so you just have a burst of bubbles in your face when you're drinking it. So
I love
there's
it.
like there's like a method behind the madness when it comes to these
Yeah.
glasses and what beers are served in them, which I think is pretty cool.
And the presentation is always something that I'm attracted to. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, how does this drink look? Is it a cute color?
Mhm.
Is it going to have descripting words such as like orange and, vanilla, like,
Right.
or is it just like, oh, brewed in a barrel, right?
Right.
Like, so, I mean, these craft brewers are very smart in the way that they prepare everything and the marketing behind it all, the labels. It's such a wonderful like process of it all.
It totally is. And then, I think the best thing to do is just like if you're just trying to try different beer and like learn more about it, I would say it's just be comfortable to step out of your comfort zone, whether it's you've never had beer before or you've only had like whatever was around. Because even if you go to like a restaurant that serves beer, they'll usually have your standard beers on tap, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so if that's all you've ever been exposed to, like I would say maybe just instead of going for that Michelob Ultra or the or the I don't know, the Heineken, like
Sure.
just try something that you normally wouldn't go for.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I have lastly this another type of beer
Mm-hmm.
that isn't quite my favorite.
Okay.
So lastly, we have the stouts. So it's typically a dark beer. So stout is a word that was described like in the 1600s, and it was used to like describe how strong it was. The word porter to describe how dark brown it was. So they became so popular that they just started making a lot of it more back in 1700s in London, England.
Mm-hmm.
They're typically around 7 to 8%. They're dark beers. A little history is that they had a longer shelf life because they were strong in flavor, and they would survive the heat a lot better. So they became
Oh.
a lot more popular. So a lot was exported to Ireland, and by the 1776, it was being brewed by Arthur Guinness, a
Oh.
well-known brewing name.
I've
And
I've actually been to the Guinness store
that's right.
storehouse. Have you been?
No, but I remember you went.
Yeah.
I'm sure that experience was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So what they use is the black patent malt. So that's what gives it that color and flavor. So I don't know. How would you describe a porter stout type of beer
Ooh, that's a
in
good
three
question. So
words?
I would say that don't. I mean, this is not really a descriptor, but I would say don't be scared of the color because it actually, to me personally, tastes different than what I would expect it to. Especially a Guinness, for example. Like it's just a lot more. It's a lot lighter than I would think it would be. If it's just your basic porter, I would say it actually is pretty straightforward. Like it doesn't really have much of a flavor other than just like crispiness and I don't know what other words to describe it with.
I would say creamy, nutty, and chocolatey.
I mean, I definitely agree that it looks chocolatey, but I don't get the chocolatey
Yeah.
flavor.
So a lot of these descripting like experiences are totally subjective. So whether or not they use coffee in the actual brewing process is like whatever. But I mean, because it looks like chocolate, maybe it's like a psychological effect where I'm just like, this
Right.
tastes like chocolate and I'm getting drunk. Like,
Yeah.
so because it has very different like flavors than a lager. I mean, they're completely, I would say they're complete opposites. Matchingfoodandwine.com, they recommend drinking porter stouts with dark chocolate cakes and desserts, vanilla ice cream, barbecue ribs, smoked brisket, blue cheeses, oysters, creamy chowder, beef stews. So very typical Irish or like English type of food. And
That sounds so good.
yeah, I mean, that's the stout porter. And there's still debate to this day whether porters should be their own thing as far as names or if stout porters are like a combined name. So stouts and porters should be, I guess, defined by their strength of how much alcohol they have, I guess, is
Okay.
the point.
What is the
Oh,
average like alcohol content?
yeah, so it's typically 7 to 8%
Okay.
alcohol BV. What's the blood volume?
The ABV. Yeah. What is it?
Let's see, ABV scale. But anyways, yeah, that's usually what it alcohol by volume, sorry, not blood volume.
Okay.
I'm
You're just a
thinking
nurse, right? So
yeah. I can't get
like
away
how
from
much
it.
alcohol is in your blood.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's usually a stronger beer. And I recommend it. Like Christy said, get out of your comfort zone, try them out. There's so much. We just covered the tippy top surface of what beer is and the different types, and I'm sure we'll be talking more on specific ones that we really like. And I mean, if anybody else wants to chime in and comment on what they like, let us know.
Or if there's a specific type of beer you'd like us to kind of dive into more, like the Mexican lagers, or because there are so many subcategories of these beers.
Yeah.
So go to a brewery. There's breweries everywhere.
They're
Big
so
big
good.
cities, small towns, big towns. People are making beer. They've been making beer since the beginning of time. And if there are no local breweries around you, which I know is a lie, then I would say just pick up a kit somewhere and make your own beer.
Do it. Just go do
Yes.
it. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining us and listening and tune in.
Thank you. I hope we didn't confuse you guys too much, but hopefully learned enough to kind of just want to drink beer
Yeah.
outside of your comfort zone.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.